the Anastasia Subculture palette. This guy right here. I was not going to film a video today. I typically film videos on the weekends because I have a normal 9 to 5, but I felt compelled to do a video on this palette because of how much noise it has made on the internet and how many people flipping hate this palette, you guys. Like, wow. I did not watch any reviews before I got this palette. I think I watched somebody like do a tutorial who had gotten it in PR and it looked really pretty on her. So I didn't watch any of the videos that came out. I made my swatch video the day I got it, literally within an hour of getting it. And all I have seen since then is how many like big YouTubers on here have come on bashing this palette. So I told you guys in the video it did have kickback, and I think that's been the biggest kind of issue with the palette that people have, which is a big issue for some people, that people have kind of been going on about. I've seen a lot of videos of this. Talking about how much fallout there is, and there is. See that? There's definitely fallout there. Kickback, fallout, whatever you want to call it. But I've also watched some videos talking about how this is a soft packed pressed shadow, and you only need a little. I mean, look at how much pigment is on my brush when I do that, and yeah, it comes flying off like that. Hopefully you guys could see, but there's still pigment on my brush, and when I go like this, pigment still comes off. My cats are kind of arguing right there if the light's kind of moving. So I know another problem is people have been applying this and it's been going on their lids patchy. They'll take something like this shade and it'll be super dark on the outside, and then it'll be the normal color on the inside. It's like outlined in a darker color, and then people have had issues with the blending. I didn't have any issues with blending or anything like that. I think everybody who gets this palette is gonna have the same kind of kickback because it's a soft pressed shadow. I just think people had such high hopes with the Modern Renaissance palette that they thought this was gonna be the exact same thing, but I don't believe the Modern Renaissance palette was soft pressed, so it didn't have that kind of kickback. And I also think that people and I also think that maybe I have a different kind of mindset on this, because again, I've never had, like I said, except for the Naked palettes, an expensive eyeshadow palette, and I don't know what the Modern Renaissance palette is like. So this is just like, I've been watching these videos and I've just been like, wow, people are really going hard on this palette. Like, was I just so hopeful for it? Did I not think it was good? So I've been playing with it and I haven't been having issues. So I've kind of come to the assumption that because I tend to do very, very simple eyeshadow looks, 1 or 2 colors, it works for me. Whereas the YouTubers and the people who have a bigger eyelid space, they've been kind of like going in with every single color and it hasn't been working. And I will say, I've tried to make some like, you know, looks with like some like all these foreshadows or something like that, and it has been hard to like visualize what I was going to do and kind of bring it to fruition without having everything become muddy. But I think that's more like me not being able to like really see the colors that I want expressed on my face, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I have a vision in my mind, but I'm not able to bring it to reality, which I think happens with a lot of artists. So I think that this palette at this point works if you don't get, and this sucks to say something like that, like if you don't get as creative. When I'm blending 2 or 3 shadows on my eyes, I don't have a problem, and I'm going to do that for you guys today. But when I bring in like a lot of the different colors, it does tend to get muddy, if that makes sense. But I don't really experiment too much. I say it till I'm blue in the face with color on my channel. I keep it pretty simple because I have hooded eyes, and that's just what works for me. It just starts to look way too heavy when I apply too much. So I'm curious what you guys think of this palette. I have heard if you contact them, they will give you a refund and they'll take care of you. So if you have this palette and you're not happy with it, please do that. There's reasons behind why you pay more money for a product, and there should be customer service behind it that backs it. And I have heard that that is what happens with Anastasia if you're not happy with it. I know everybody is like up in arms about these shimmer shades. Adorn, I think, is just fine. I think there's plenty of pigment in that shadow. But yes, Electric and Cube, I believe I mentioned this in my other video. I think Electric and Cube are just more like shadow toppers. I don't think they're meant to have as much pigment as everybody is wanting. Like you saw in my video, like I just dug my hand pretty deep in there, and you can kind of just see the like reflex of it. So to me, that's more of like a shadow topper. That's not something I would try to apply all over my lid, and it would be cool if you could, but you know, sometimes shadows are meant for different things, and I don't know what they were meant for. I don't know what they were trying to do when they created the palette, but I just work with what I have, I guess. So I have no issues with this palette. I like it. I think it blends well. So let's just go ahead and you know, get into it. We'll do a look here. This is kind of what I've been going towards since I've gotten the palette. It's very similar to what I did when I did my swatch video. So I primed my lids already with MAC Lay and Low, and then I just took my powder, my face powder, and just set everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take Roxy right here, and I'm going to take my brush and dip into it so you guys can see the amount of fallout, so I can be totally transparent about that. You can see there's definitely shadow, but all you really need to do is dip once into this shadow and you have plenty of pigment on. Like I dipped in, what, 3 times there, and I have a ton of pigment. And you'll see when I start to apply this on my eyes, I need a mirror, that there's plenty of pigment in it. So let's just go ahead. I've been taking this and kind of putting it all over the outer third up to kind of like the outer third and the middle third of my shadow of my eye, and just kind of placing it on like that. You could definitely use a flat brush as well, but I mean, you could see I don't have fallout. Let me scoot in here. I don't have any fallout, and I wasn't using a flat brush. I was, as you could see, kind of going like this, and I really don't have a lot of fallout. So I don't know if it's the way I apply shadow, or if some of these, that's the other thing I've heard, that like there's a bad batch. So I don't know if because I ordered on the website on the first day, literally right when it dropped, if I got like the good batch or something like that. But I don't know, you guys. I don't seem to have issues with this. Try to bring this up a little higher. I've been trying to follow more of my orbital bone shape to put on my eyeshadow rather than just under the hood. So we'll see what happens here. But anyway, you guys can see here, I mean, I don't see fallout. Do you? I just think you need to like work with this shadow appropriately. And hey, I totally get that some people don't want to do that. To each their own. If you just want to use something that's, you know, is not going to have any fallout, is not going to have any kickback, something like those Morphe shadows, the 35A and 35B, I freaking love those. That's something that maybe you would want to return this palette for, because it just doesn't work for you. But if a palette does not work the way that I expected it to, I guess I just kind of go with it. And with this palette, because it's unique and I feel like I don't have these shades, I like that, so I want to keep it. So anyway, here I am blending, and I don't really see any issues with the blending. I think that it's blending out just fine. And this is actually not even a clean brush. I've just been using my Sephora color switch to kind of blend it out. I just run the brush through there to clean it off, and the shadow just blends out for me, and I'm not having to work too hard. I think a lot of people, when watching the videos, had issues when they were applying shadow on top of shadow. I think it kind of, as it sat there, it wasn't allowing them to blend. So maybe that's an issue. If you leave it and you apply over and then you let it sit there, it doesn't work. I don't know. Part of me thinks, I mean, I get it that this is not what people expected, and that's the issue. So I don't know if it's such a thing now that people are just wanting to hate it, if that makes sense, or what. I don't know. It stinks that it's not living up to the hype that everybody wanted to, and that makes me sad for the consumers, and it makes me sad for Anastasia, because I know this was really built up to be impressive, and I like it. I do, but maybe I'm just not as like experienced with high-end shadows, and I'm a little more like willing to work with what I have. I don't know if that makes sense, you guys, but see, I think that blended out just fine. I don't have any issues with that. I could pile more shadow on and I don't think I'd have an issue. Still, I don't think I have fallout. Let me get really close here. Yeah, no fallout. So I don't know. What do you guys think here? I get it. Expectations were really high because of the Modern Renaissance palette and because of her other shadows, but I'm just not really having too hard of a time with this palette. But again, my looks are very simple. So anyway, I'm gonna now go in with, what do we want to use? New Wave. Let's go in with New Wave right here. And for this, I'm going to take a flat shadow brush just to kind of change it up and press 3 times into it like that. Not too much kickback there. Let's see the pigment I got from that. I mean, see, that's really pigmented, and I barely touched it, and there's really not a ton of fallout on it. So guys, I don't know if I received like the golden ticket of these shadows. Someone's like singing. Weird. I don't know if I received the golden ticket of these shadows or what, but I like how they perform. So I'm gonna touch this on both of my inner corners. Well, it's not really the inner corner, it's more of like the inner third. And like you guys saw, I dipped it once. That wasn't anything too crazy. And I'm just gonna take that same shadow brush and just blend the top of it and just touch right here. And we'll check on fallout in a second. I'm gonna dip a little bit back into Roxy very, very lightly so I don't apply too much pigment. Same thing on the other side. Do we see fallout? I still don't see fallout. I don't know. I don't see fallout, and I'm not having issues, and I think that blended really well. So I don't know, you guys, did I receive the best palette, or I don't know. So typically what I do is I just take that same Roxy color, the one that I mostly have all of my eyes, bring it under, and then bring the yellow under, but we can go ahead and try to dip into some other colors to kind of play around. So let's just go ahead and take Untamed and Axis, the two purple, those are blue, blue colors. And first we'll dip into Axis, the one in the corner here. I dipped my pencil slightly into there, and you could see the fallout or kickback, whatever, right there. The kickback is real, that's for sure. The kickback is definitely real on these palettes. So I'm gonna just lightly start to, I stuck my finger into Rowdy, and now I have it on my face. So be careful with that. I'm sure that's gonna be something that you'll have to be careful of when you're working with this palette. Where is my sponge? When you're working with this palette, because it is easy to touch a shadow and touch your face and then make a mess, I guess. So just be wary, but I mean, pretty much gone. No big deal for me. So now I'm gonna take this and just very lightly work this under my eye on both sides. I feel like this is literally the same color as my eyes. I like that I'm using like the tiniest mirror to put this on. It's Probably not helpful. So I'll just do that, and then I'm gonna take another brush. Actually, no, I'll just wipe this one off and then go in with Untamed, which is very similar. Just a little more on like the green side, and put that right next to it. More on like the inner. Oh, maybe like the middle of the eye, just to kind of diffuse the color as we work inwards. And then I'm going to just take a fluffy brush. This is the Morphe M507, and I'm going to go into Roxy once again, dipping like once. I'm going to start to just work that under to blend. Got my little tiny mirror. So typically I just take the Roxy color and work it around my eyes and not do this like pop of color here, but I want to kind of show you guys how these shadows work for me, and so far I still don't see any fallout. So I don't know. Alright, now I'm going to take Edge, which is kind of like this mustard yellow shade, and again I'm just going to take a flat brush and I'm going to dip into that. You can see the kickback on that. I just went 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to just apply that on the inner third here. Blend it and diffuse it into the blue. This is weird for me because I don't usually do looks like this. This is just different. So yeah, I still don't see fallout anywhere. So, I mean, I'm pretty light-handed, so this just might be one of those shades that you have to go a little more light-handed on. I'm gonna go into Cube here. Now, you can see my Cube looks a little screwed up because I was dipping between Roxy and Cube, so if that bothers you with this palette, just be forewarned. But I am going to take Cube, and Cube doesn't have a ton of fallout, like, watch. But it is a harder shadow, so it's a little harder to work with. And you do kind of have to dig in there to get pigment. But again, I'm just going to use this on my inner corner. You can just see it kind of reflects that like pink. I like that shade a lot. I think it's super cool. Let me get real close so you guys can see here. I don't see fallout. Get real close. Yeah, I don't see fallout. I think they blended nicely. I'm very light-handed, and I don't do like really detailed like crease work and multiple shades on the lids and that type of stuff. So maybe this is just a palette that you have to go a little more simple with, you know? I think the colors are unique once again. And I like it, you guys. I'm not having any issues with it. So let me quickly just throw on some mascara and some falsies, and I'll meet you back here in like 1 second. All right, you guys, so this is the completed look. I decided not to apply falsies. I just felt like kind of using my normal lashes today. So this is what everything looks like. I'll look down so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. I like this palette. Again, I'm very simple. I'm light-handed. I don't try to like go in with 8 different colors or anything like that. So I like the palette. I'm not having issues with it. I mean, you guys saw, I thought this blended pretty well. So I don't know, this just has me so confused on what's going on. I know there was a huge issue with the whole Too Faced Nikki Tutorials palette a while back. So I mean, I don't know. It seems like all the YouTubers who received this palette from Anastasia PR are the ones who don't like it. So they're a lot more experienced with high-end palettes than I am. So maybe it's just different expectation levels. Maybe it's the bad batches. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep using it. I do wonder how long these shadows are gonna last because, I mean, you could clearly see I use New Wave the most and Roxy. And they are starting to get dense. So will this be worth the $42? I don't know. We'll see. But I hope this was helpful to some of you if you were wondering about this. I'm very curious to know what you guys think. sometimes I feel like things go viral and then everybody kind of like tags onto it, but I don't know, it seems like the consensus is this palette sucks, but I like it, so I'm gonna keep using it. Let me know what you guys think below. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them below. I read and respond to every single comment. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. As always, I greatly appreciate it, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.